It's always the desire of the living that after their clock is done, they are laid to rest with dignity. Things, however, take a different turn when the living care less for the dead and their resting places. Here is the tale of the hanging graves of Usoma in Kisumu West in a KUTV special by reporter Calvin Ogome.
It is always a difficult experience for human beings to imagine that one day their breath will be taken away and they'll take a final bow. The few human beings who think about death only think on how they'll be buried in a classical manner, in classic and cemented graves that will be permanent and they'll be remembered forever. However, efforts by the living to make ends meet have denied the dead peace, forcing them to rest in pieces, as their income-generating activities neither respect the dead or the environment. We arrive in Usoma village, Kisumu West, on the shores of Africa's largest freshwater lake, the Lake Victoria. Apart from fishing, sand harvesting is the second leading source of income for many families that dwell on the sandy shores of the lake. George Seni is in the process of kicking the poverty basket by harvesting sand, a job that he has been doing for more than a decade now on this sandy shore that is unsuitable for cultivation. He understands quite well the effects of his job to the future generation and to the environment at large, but he has no option left apart from harvesting the precious commodity that pays his bills.
Serikali hataki mchanga tulewe sababu kutoa mchanga pia unaharibu ni kama environment. Sasa lazima sisi pia tunajitafutia tu sababu kama sasa ni mashamba ni yetu, sasa wewe kwa shamba yako utaenda kutafuta tu, hata utapata kitu kidogo uende rudi naye kwa nyumba. Hapa yote ilikuwa maji. Kulingana na mchanga hii, mchanga maji niliwacha nje. Sasa vile maji nasonga ndio sisi pia tunasonga na udongo wetu kama tunaelekea baharini. Vile bahari inasonga sisi pia tunasonga hivyo hivyo.
The perception of the people about the destruction of the graves as a result of sand mining will leave you with more questions than answers on the desire by human beings to rest in peace after leaving the beautiful planet.
Samba hizi zilikuwa juu. Sasa vile zilichimbwa zikawacha kama hizo makaburi wakati zilikuwa zilizikwa kitambo. Kuna wenye walikuwa zimezikwa 1993. Walipata kama mchanga bado ilikuwa hajatolewa. Sasa ilikuwa ikabidi wenye mashamba ndio walikuwa wanatoa hizo mchanga. Sasa unajua ilingana sasa vile watu wa area vile iko. Mwenye ameenda. Yeye afike malipima peponi. Marehemu ni marehemu vile unaitwa marehemu hivyo. So marehemu akisha kufa yeye ni marehemu vile unaitwa marehemu ni marehemu sababu hawezi ongea. Mwenye amekufa ameenda. Sababu hata kama uende utoe yeye sasa yeye nje utoe mchanga hapo baada hawezi kuongea unanitoa namna gani? Unanitoa kwa nini?
The 73-year-old Maurice Ouko Odewa is an experienced fisherman and a former sand harvester from Usoma who has abandoned the sand mining craft after realizing the adverse effect the activity has on the environment and the generation after him.
Sasa hapa wakichimba mimi nitaingia kwenye shimo jamani. Kabla bado hai hivi. Sasa ngoja nife kwanza ndio wanisike hapo. Wakina baba wamefariki kabla mchanga haijatolewa bado. Sasa baada ya wazazi wetu kisa fariki ndio tukaanza mambo ya mchanga hii. Usaidizi ndio ulikuwa haba. Yaani mtu kaa na kulima tulimi. Sasa tukaona sasa tutoe mchanga tujisaidiane naye.
These hanging graves in Usoma clearly indicate that the dead aren't resting in peace but in pieces. Therefore, something needs to be done to appease their spirits or else the generation of sand miners may suffer unknown consequences.
Hapa kwa boma nimesika wakina mama wawili, mmoja kaburi yake hapo kwenye mawe hizi, mmoja yuko nyuma ya bafu pale. Nimeshapoteza wakina mama wawili. Sasa walikuwa wakitoa mchanga lakini walipofika kwenye kaburi wakasema hapana msiingie huko sasa. Mtu ananunua mchanga, unanunua dongo pa kutoa mchanga, wewe ukitoka kidogo tu wale wameweka wamtolee mchanga, wanaanza kuna hivi sasa mvua ikija na kiwa ni simiti sasa inabakia juu sasa. Ikiwa hivyo msifanyika hivyo, unachukua kondoo ama kuku jogoo, ikiwa ni mzee. Inachenjwa hapo inakuwa kama sikukuu, mnakula mnamaliza hiyo maneno hapo. Wengine wamefanya lakini wengine wamepuzia kufanya, sasa ikawa hivyo tu. Usiposikilia sana nayo inapita namna hiyo, lakini ubaya baadaye inaweza kuleta shida kwa watoto. Mtoto anaweza kuwa ndo wazimu, saa nyingine mtoto anaweza kuwa unagonjeka lakini kicho mnafanya agonjeke huwezi kuelewa ni nini.
Despite the Ministry of Environment banning sand mining in parts of the country, including Machakos, Kajiado, and even Kisumu County, the exercise still goes on. Professor Simon Onywere, a geologist and an environmental planner, says poor policies and the high levels of poverty among the people in the mining areas are the chief reasons behind the increased environmental destruction through uncontrolled mining.
The Mining Act does not talk about the impact of mining. It's silent on it. So therefore, management of mining sites has become an impossible thing.
The legislations are there, the regulations are there, but these regulations have to be implemented by the communities. They have to understand why and what they are for, and how can they use them as an instrument of conserving their environment. So the challenge we have in the country is that most of the youth, most of the people who are mining actually, they are interested in making money, and plenty of it, by the way.
Areas adjacent to oceans and lakes are the most affected by human activities like sand harvesting, which not only destroys the soil structure but also the hydrology of a place. It then begs the question on how will the next generation survive with the high rate of environmental destruction.
Remember, sand is not a consolidated material. It's very loose. Even in the Bible, it talks about if you build your house in the sand, then you are finished. So if these people build their houses in the sand and they're actually destabilizing the environment around the sand, then the houses will sink. The houses will simply flow with the sand when next it rains and it wants to move the sand to fill the void or the hole that has been left. So the sand becomes liquefied, and in the process, the houses will collapse.
According to environmental experts and scholars, it is very difficult to rehabilitate the destroyed land despite having rivers that transfer silt and sand from uplands to the lake and ocean basins. This therefore implies that human beings are constantly on a pursuit to dig their own graves while they are still alive.
Well, rehabilitation can be done in one or another, just finding a mechanism of finding the right seeds that can grow in the sand pits. Remember, we created sand pits. So we can find the right mechanism of populating the area with vegetation. But still, that doesn't bring it back to what it was. It will just create a new environment and new habitats and so on, which in some cases may not be suitable for that ecosystem, because then the biodiversity for the area, remember, every ecosystem has its own biodiversity, which is basically influenced by the type of vegetal systems that are there and the amount of moisture that the area receives. That's what influences biodiversity.
Environmentalists and geographers warn that if alternative means of construction that are environmental friendly are not embraced, then there are high chances of extinction of human beings, animals, and some plant species after a prolonged period of environmental destruction.
So that is not sustainable. So we have to find other mechanisms of developing materials for construction. Definitely, this is destroying environment, this is destroying ecosystem, it's destroying the hydrology of rivers, and the consequence of it is we have already seen the effect. Every time it rains in Kajiado, there is flooding. Every time it does wherever, there is flooding. And before long, there is no water. In fact, in areas where, for example, you mentioned that there are people are burying, there are people around there, and the graveside is the only thing which is left, and the house is the only thing that is left. That in itself is a problem, it's a cultural problem. It brings about cultural issues. If a grave is exposed or a coffin in a grave is exposed, then you can imagine in Nyanza you have to go through a lot of other gymnastics to appease the gods and so on. But you see, the problem is brought by lack of planning in the mining process.
It is the desire of every human being, especially Africans, that immediately they leave this planet, they'll be laid to rest well. But for residents of Usoma in Kisumu County, things are totally different as the dead are laying restlessly. Kelvin Ogome, KUTV.